Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we're realizing the prophecy of ancient dodos coming true. A huge meteorite is approaching our island and there is only one thing left to do: run! Because the fastest dodo and dino will be saved from extinction. Dodos Riding Dinos is a competitive family dexterity game that presents a crazy race. It's for 1 to 6 players, plays in 20 minutes, is for ages 8 and up, and published by Draco Studios and Detestable Games. It's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview video, so all the art and components you see here are not final. They're a prototype, and you're going to want to check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video to see all the final art and components. Now the game's called Dodos Riding Dinos for a reason. At the beginning of the game, each of you is going to select one of these dodos and dino combinations. Now I mentioned the prototype components. These are actually going to be miniatures, and you can see what some of those will look like here. Now at the beginning of the game, you get to put this first player token in the middle of the board. You say ready, set, go, and then everyone tries to take it. Whoever is the fastest will get it and will be the first player. Now that first player is going to place their miniature here, and the second player, which is going to be the next player clockwise, will also be one step behind the finish line. The next two players in clockwise order will be here, and the next two here. We're just going to play with 5 players, so there's just a 5th player here. What you're trying to do is run all the way around and be the first one to get all the way to the finish line, and you can select the shorter track or the longer track around the outside. Now there's going to be a deck of cards, and each player is going to be secretly dealt 6 cards. Normally these would be face down, but each player is going to take those cards in their hand. They can look at them, but they won't let anybody else see them. Now you'll notice there's 3 types of cards in the game. There's blue cards, which are the normal cards, red cards, which are the aggressive cards, and green cards, which are the fast cards. Now the game is played over multiple rounds until one or more players run all the way around and crosses the finish line, and each of the rounds is made up of 2 phases. Now in the scheming phase, each player is going to secretly select one of the red or blue cards and put it face down in front of them. Once everybody's played their card, they all get flipped face up. Now in this case we see 4 blue cards and 1 red card. So let's just go and show you how this might work. So this player, you look at here and it says 0. They don't move anything by default movement. However, pedal to the metal, you get to roll 2 dice and advance that amount. So we would simply just roll the 2 dice and wow, we'd get to go up 5 in this case, and we'd move our dino and dodo combination up 5. Then it'd be this player. Now, there's only 1 red card, so first they'd get to move 2, and then nitro, they'd roll 2 dice and advance that amount. However, let's say instead of that first blue card that more than 1 player played red cards. If at any time in this phase, more than 1 player had played a red card, all the players that played the red card are enraged and don't get to do the action at the bottom. They still get their base movement, but all the actions are canceled, so you want to play the red cards at the right time when no one else is playing them. Which in this case is unfortunate because not only would they have been able to move 2, they would have been able to, never saw it coming, take 2 damage and then switch places with another dino, so they could have been in last place and switched to first. By the way, when taking damage, this says take 2 damage, you would take any 2 cards that you would select them, and you would discard them out of the game into the discard pile. Now, if you ever discard by taking damage and you have no cards left, essentially you have to go back 3 spaces on the board, but then you get 5 new cards in your hand. Now during this running phase, at any time a player can play one of these green cards. Like if someone was getting ready to do this and switch positions, someone could throw down this card that says, hey, cancel any effect, it's a blocking. But this player might even throw a mega blocking, which can block the block card. And this cancels any effect, and that player takes 2 damage, for example. Or you might be playing things like moving ahead 2 hexes, or you might be playing things like take 2 damage, roll a die, and advance that amount. So those cards can be played at any time, and you're trying to find the right time to play those. So let's look at some of these other cards. The Twister would have made you move 0 by base. You'd take 2 damage, discarding 2 cards as just mentioned, roll a die, and all the other dinos have to go back that amount. Now let's talk about some of the really cool cards. Egg. We get to move 3, and then, this is one bumpy road, you would throw an egg of 2 damage, and if you hit, you get to draw a card. So you actually would be able to get this egg. You would find your miniature. Let's say this was us. You move them out of the way just for a little bit, and you put the egg here, and then you're going to flick it. Now you have to flick it without the resistance of a thumb, and we're trying to hit somebody. Ooh, just like that. Now let's look at the Meteorite card. They'd move 3, and then they throw a Meteorite of 2 damage. For each Dino hit, you draw a card and advance 2 hexes. So here we have the Meteorite. You then take that Meteorite, you'd put it in your hand, you'd lift your hand a foot off the table, and then you would just simply drop it straight down. Oh, look at that, I hit both of them. So each of them would have taken 2 damage, discarding 2 cards, and I would have been able to draw 1 card and advance 2 hexes for each Dino hit. So I would have gotten 2 cards and 4 hexes, plus my 3 original. I would have gone up 7. What a great move. And the last up, a really interesting card here that I have showing you is the banana. You're going to move 3 and then whoops, drop something. You're going to throw this banana at at the different dodos, and it's going to do 2 damage. So what you'd do here is you would take the banana in your hand, you'd put your elbow on the table, and you would then try to just throw this without taking your elbow off at some of the dodos and dinos, but you got to be careful because you can hit your own. Ooh, all right, we hit that one. At the end of the running phase, the leader is going to move up 1. All the other players are going to be able to draw 1 card. You pass the first token player to the next player on the left, and you start the scheming phase again. Now this will continue until at least one of the Dodo and Dinos passes the finish line. If more than one passes it, whoever's the furthest wins. If it's tied, whoever has the most cards in their hand is the winner. Now I showed you this board, but it's actually double-sided. This side not only works with Dodos Riding Dinos, but it also is compatible with the Creature Kingdom universe, which is a gaming system where miniatures from War of the Chicken Island and a 3rd game coming in winter 2020 will be merged into a single game experience. On the opposite side of the board, there's 2 different tracks, short and long, that you can play on the lava side. Here's a look at some of the other cards in the game. This isn't even all of them, but I want to give you a flavor for what else is in it. So for nostalgia, you get to draw any card from the discard pile. Thunder, all dinos in front of you take 2 damage. Cautious, walking on dino eggshells, you draw 2 cards. Dino jump, you roll 1 die and advance that amount. Now for the red cards, Dodo's Hierarchy. All players with dinos in front of yours must give you exactly 2 cards. For each player who can't, advance 3 hexes. Extreme Urgency, you get to roll 2 dice and advance that amount. Early Bird, you get the worm. Play any card from your hand. Slippery, slide to the top, move to the hex behind the dino in the lead. Now remember, if more than one player plays one of these red cards, these are canceled. Now there's also a Challenger Racers version, which is when you're playing with 1 or 2 players. For 1 player, you'd add 2 different challengers, and I'm just showing you 3 of them here because there's easy, standard, and hard that you can go against. And if you're playing 2 players, you'd have just 1 challenger. Now during the scheming phase, after you reveal your card, you take the top card of each of the challengers and you flip it. Now, you look at the color of the card and you look at how much the movement is going to be depending on the difficulty of that challenger. Now if it's a blue card, you move the normal movement 3 plus the blue movement 2. So this one would move 5. On the red, you take the movement and multiply it by the red. So it's 1 times 0 in this case would be 0. But if you played this one, it'd be 2 times 1, it would move 2. Now, if they are the only one to play a red card, as this player overpasses any of the other players, they're going to steal a card from their deck and put it to the bottom of their deck. If the challenger plays a green card, you'll simply just roll the die there and you'll get to move that much. Now the challengers don't use any of the effects on any of the cards. But having a red card out could cause you to be enraged if you also played a red card, not allowing your ability to trigger. Now once a challenger has run out of cards, they go back 3 hexes on the board and they draw 6 new cards for their movement deck. And so that's pretty much how that plays. You're trying to beat the challengers. Now there'll be both a retail and deluxe version on the Kickstarter, check out the project page, but the deluxe version will include components with enhanced quality, more miniatures, additional boards, extra cards, and new dexterity tricks, such as rolling a trunk, a spinning tornado, and more. Well, there you have Dodos Riding Dinos, and as I showed in the overview, it's a family game that mixes light strategy and dexterity elements to it. Now, if you'd like to see all the final art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video, and it will take you directly to the Kickstarter project page. And I'm sure the fine folks at Draco Studios and Detestable Games would love your support.